on the grid here. Kevin, always such a fundamental part of this Austin Grand Prix weekend. So closely connected to the circuit. He helped design it with iconic circuit design. Herman Tilke. We're just getting a little bit of a breather, a little bit of a pause. This Marc Marquez as Marco Bezzecchi completes his slowest lap of Austin so far here this weekend. See, well, we're about to see, aren't we, whether Bez can increase his 11-point lead in the MotoGP World Championship. Still to find his way to the medal ceremony on the Sprint Saturday so far this season.
While you look at the grid then, let's head down to the front. Well, in Buriram, Paul Trevathan told us that they were ready to unleash the monster. The monster starts from third on the grid. Paul Trevathan for Jack.
Yes, so I get the feeling that the monster is going to have to be unleashed again. Pedro has spoken all week about the top speed deficiency here in Austin, obviously with that 1.2 kilometre long back straight to keep the Ducatis and the Aprilias behind him. He's going to have to brake like he's never braked before. Do you think he's got it in him?
Yeah, I mean, we suffered a bit differently in the last GP with this, and we know we made the bike better, but we've taken away a bit of our strong point. So looks like we're in a better shape here. The guys in the factory again worked some miracles and bought some stuff that made. Looks like we've been able to make a step in that direction. So we hope that it's not as bad as that, but yeah, the monster will have to break this for sure.
Absolutely. All the best, Paul. Have a good one.
Cheers, mate. Thank you.
Thanks, Jack. Thanks as always to Paul Trevathan. Pedro Acosta qualifying on the front row for just his 6th time in his 44th MotoGP appearance. Just looking through the grid, as always, myself and Lewis keeping a very beady eye on tyre selection. It looks like a very, very straightforward pick. It is a lot cooler than what was a scorching hot Friday to kick off this round 3 here in Austin yesterday. Ambient temperatures soaring well in excess of 30 degrees. To say the least, it's been a lot cooler today, a lot chillier, a lot of cloud around, a bit of a breeze as well. But medium front, soft for it, Lewis. It looks like we're all good to go. A level playing field, everybody on the same combo.
Yeah, I guess everyone might have to take a little bit of care in those early stages with the medium front tyre, given how much cooler it is today than it was yesterday. We did have a few crashes, particularly at turn 2 earlier on this morning in free practice too. But this is such a tough sprint to call with some of the pre-sprint favourites, certainly the overwhelming favourite, Marc Marquez, coming from 6th place on the grid. Right behind him was Jorge Martin, who you just saw there, leaving the grid. He's going from 7th. We've got some of the surprise names up there, like Mir, 5th on the grid. He was on pole halfway through qualifying earlier on today. So difficult to land on one name to ultimately take the gold medal out of this one.
Oh, that lovely logo, that lovely picture on the side of the grid there. Nicky Hayden, number 69, 20 years ago, since that unforgettable 2006 campaign where he won the championship in such emotional scenes at the Ricardo Tormo circuit in Valencia. Marco Bezzecchi then, well, of late it's been the Digia Bez show in MotoGP qualifying. Those pair have claimed the last 5 MotoGP pole positions. Certainly not as comfortable as who he was in Austin 2025 this year is Alex Marquez, who had a pretty hefty old tumble this morning down the hill into that fast right-hander at turn 2. Of course, Alex was down at the first corner yesterday, and he finds himself on the middle of that 3rd row in 8th place. Fair to say, just has not gelled, has not clicked at all so far, has he, Lewis, with the Ducati GP26, a shadow of the rider that we saw throughout the most of 2025.
In particular, he's just lacking that sort of confidence and that feel in the braking. He's really struggling to stop that bike, which is going to be difficult. He's trying to make some overtakes. So the 2 factory Ducatis then line up either side of Joan Mir on the 2nd row of the grid. How much further up the order can they get? Davide Tardozzi's with Jack.
Yeah, that's the big question. It's not very often that we come into a race in Austin, Davide, and Marc isn't the huge favourite, but given what we've seen this weekend, he isn't. So what is the goal today?
The goal is to collect points and, if possible, the podium. It's obvious that Marc is not in his good health on the body side, but yeah, I'm sure that he will fight hardly to try to be on the podium, but as usual for the race is necessary to collect points.
Job done for Pecco this morning, his best qualifying considerably of the season. How big are these upcoming races, in particular today, to try and gather some momentum, build some confidence and really kick-start this season?
Yeah, I think that he won last year, and he has a good potential to fight for the podium. But here in Austin is absolutely necessary good start.
Thanks, Davide. Good luck, you.
Jack, thanks to Ducati boss Davide Tardozzi. A good start, Bagnaia will be hoping to make from the front row tomorrow when he gets pushed up into the top 3 places. Bezzecchi and Marquez's sort of fortunes on Saturdays and Sundays have been reversed, haven't they, so far this season? Bezzecchi going in search of his first sprint podium, but he's won both Sunday Grand Prix. Marc Marquez has been on the sprint podium in both. He won the sprint last weekend in Goiânia, but Marc has yet to finish on a Sunday podium, which is something of a surprise given how strong he was throughout last year. It's Pedro Acosta, well, he's always one to embrace a bit of local culture wherever he go. Wherever I've seen Pedro walk on the paddock this weekend, if he hasn't been with his helmet or his leathers on, he's been in his uniform with his Stetson on. He's going full cowboy in cowboy country, to be fair to him, isn't he?
Will he be the sheriff of Kota here this afternoon? One sprint win already this year for Pedro Acosta. Here is the man that won the other. Well, Marco Bezzecchi did qualify second and start second for this sprint, but of course has been given a penalty for tomorrow's Grand Prix. Can he extend his World Championship lead today? Paolo Bonora for Jack.
Yeah, thanks, Paolo, down here with me, just having some final conversation. Just firstly, Paolo, before we touch on the sprint, since we were last with you, the news that Marco has handed a two-place penalty. I've never heard of a two-place penalty before. Do you think you've slightly got away with that, not getting 3? What's your take on the penalty?
Yeah, I would like to don't think anymore about it. We have to accept this penalty. To be sure, to be honest with you, we have to remain focused despite of this penalty, to remain focused, because we have seen that Marco, but Jorge as well, has a good potential, good race pace. They did good lap time attack, so remain focused and don't forget about the penalty.
That's of course to come tomorrow. In this one, Marc hasn't looked comfortable all weekend. Starts from the second row of the grid. Can you count him out, or are you still worried that we haven't seen the true Marc Marquez yet?
Yeah, it will be a long race distance for sure. Today we have to manage in a good way the first start. Here is a very specific track layout. There is in the first part of the corner we have to be calm, to wait until the group is quite far. But then there is many places where we can overtake. And during tomorrow race we have to think about another type of management. And yeah, the key will be to manage the front tire as we did in Goiânia.
It's Paolo, thanks.
Thanks, Jack. Thanks to Aprilia boss Paolo Bonora. So the Aprilia fans are out in fourth. We've got the cheerleaders ready to cheer on Bezzecchi and Jorge Martin, and not forgetting about Fernandez and Ayagura, of course. Jorge Martin, I'm not sure we'd have got to round 3 and we'd be saying Jorge Martin has more sprint podiums in the opening 2 rounds than his teammate Marco Bezzecchi, but that brilliant weekend in Goiânia last weekend, the first time that we saw the Martinator on a sprint podium for Aprilia. First time he was on a Grand Prix podium for Aprilia. Second and first in the standings, aren't they? Martin and Bezzecchi. Jack Miller, well, he's looking pretty cool, he's looking pretty relaxed. Fucking smile on the face is Jack at the moment, because it is pretty tough going at the moment. Hard going if you're on one of those V4 powered Weissendorf M1s. Miller will be starting from 19th place on the grid at the complete opposite end of this 21 strong grid here in Austin, Texas. It's going to be VR46 Racing Team by Fabio Di Gianantonio. Diggio back-to-back foals in 2026. Let's get the thoughts of the boss, Lucio Cerucci.
Yeah, what a 7 days it's been for the Italian so far. Uccio, pole position once again. How do you think what he went through, what he experienced last weekend is going to help him today?
Yeah, I'm very happy because the second pole position in a row. Usually Fabio is not very good in the time attack, but now we improve a lot. We found the real second, then second light, and also he make a big effort. But today I asked Fabio, please try 101% because second, third second need to won now, please. And for sure it's the laps, need to push, start. It's important to start the first corner because you know the first corner is very, you know, it's like this. But we see what's happened. I'm very happy. I'm very happy for the team, for our partner, and especially for Fabio.
Who are the key rivals today?
For me, Bezzecchi for sure, but also Bezzecchi Acosta for me, the two riders. The rhythm is Bezzecchi Acosta, also Pecco, but for me Bezzecchi.
Thanks, Sergio. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jack. Thanks to VR46 boss Ucho Salucci. He's not lying, is he, when he says that Fabio Di Giannantonio, not traditionally a strong qualifier. This is Grand Prix start number 189 for Digia. It's only his 4th ever career pole position, 3rd in MotoGP. We saw Marc Marquez there. Great shots down the grid of him just limbering up, getting those wrists and those damaged arms loose. You could see the taping, you could see the strapping on both of Marc's arms. There's lots of cuts and bruises. He's lost some skin on the palm of his left hand. That's that big crash yesterday at turn 10. 30 racing laps ahead of Marc Marquez. Every single one of them, he's going to be feeling it.
As you saw there, there's been a bit of a costume change at Trackhouse since we saw them in qualifying, donning the stars and stripes for their home Grand Prix. Earning his stripes earlier on today. Igor was hoping to do that, but unfortunately twice down the road in free practice 2 and then a poor qualifying, undoing a lot of the hard work from his Friday afternoon when he was second quickest. Iagura, to make it into the points, is going to have a challenge starting on row 4.
Yeah, his best Friday ever in MotoGP, followed by a distinctly average and crashing back down to earth Saturday here for the Japanese rider. Those 2 crashes this morning, 2 of 3 he's had so far this weekend in Trackhouse Aprilia's home round. Pedro Acosta then getting himself ready, focused in the zone, already a sprint winner so far in 2026. Fabio Di Giannantonio had an epic sprint long battle and an epic Grand Prix long battle last weekend in Brazil, didn't he, with Marc Marquez. Those two are going to be going toe-to-toe once again. As you saw on that graphic while we were listening to Ucho Salucci, Jorge Martin looks like he has taken a late decision just before his lights out here in the sprint to switch over to the medium compound Michelin rear tyre. One eye, you feel, on the longer distance, double distance over 20 laps tomorrow. So our information as it stands right now is the outlier in this pack, Lewis, is Jorge Martin, who has dropped from, or he's gone up from the soft to the medium rear compound.
Perhaps a decision he wouldn't have taken had he qualified on the front row of the grid, but going from row 3, knowing he's going to be in a lot of traffic, he's decided to take a bit of a cautious option.
So Pedro Acosta, the World Championship leader after round 1 in Thailand, dropped back down to 3rd in the rankings behind the 2 Aprilias after he was 9th in the sprint, Boyania, and then 7th in the Grand Prix. So many riders, of course, sporting special liveries and helmet designs for this American Grand Prix. That is some spot to grab if you want to catch the best view of the Circuit of the Americas in Austin, Texas, the world-famous observation tower, which stands proud right in the heart of this massive motorsport complex. Around about a 20-25 minute drive from the outskirts of downtown Austin. It will be buzzing on a Saturday night in the live music capital of the world. Who will be hitting the right notes, though, in this 10-lap sprint coming your way shortly? Run up that first corner, heavy braking up. We've seen a few moments of drama up there on that tight left-hander.
You just saw the view from the King of Kota, Marc Marquez. If you cast your minds back to the sprint last year, Pecco Bagnaia from 6th on the grid, led around the first corner, and Marc Marquez produced something similar.
Yeah, you don't think Marc Marquez is going to sprint off the grid in the Grand Prix just as he did here 1 year ago. All the pre-race chaos in Kota, which had us all on our toes, didn't it, for much of the pre-race build-up last year. So Pedro Acosta then on the front row of the grid for the second time this year. Marco Bezzecchi, 11 points clear at the top of the World Championship. Can he take his first sprint podium of what's already been a fantastic 2026? But what a week it has been for Fabio Di Giannantonio, the VR46 racing team rider, on pole position last weekend in South America, and here in North America he's back at the front of the grid and chasing his first sprint success. had record laps, we've had big crashes, we've had big controversies already throughout this COTA Grand Prix weekend, but now it is time for sprint action. 10 laps coming your way here in round 3. Welcome to the Red Bull Grand Prix of the United States. Fabio Di Gianantonio, 7 days ago in Goiânia, on pole position for just the second time in his MotoGP career. Well, he's backed it up and gone back-to-back in South and North America. The R46 Racing Team rider, the fastest rider in history around Austin. We've been coming here now for 13 years. First visit, of course, back in 2013. What an occasion that was for Marc Marquez, when he started carving up the record books in the Premier Class. On that occasion, becoming the youngest ever winner in the MotoGP World Championship. But looking tomorrow to get back on the throne and reclaim his status as the king of COTA. 8th Grand Prix win here in Austin beckons tomorrow for the number 93. In the present, though, the main focus for the reigning world champion is trying to block out the pain of yesterday's big crash in practice at turn 10 and try and find his way to his second sprint victory of the season. Of course, without that sort of late drama in round 1 of the Chang International Circuit in Buriram, make a very, very strong case indeed for Marc Marquez, having taken victory in both of our sprints so far this season. This is where we sit championship-wise then, heading into this third round. And a Aprilia 1-2, Marco Bezzecchi. First time we've seen an Aprilia rider at the summit of the MotoGP World Championship since Aleix Espargaro, bang on 4 years ago, when he led the standings after his victory 4 years ago in 2022 at Tomás de Rio Hondo in Argentina. Sprint winners here in Austin, well, it's been very much an Italian manufacturer affair. 2 wins for Ducati, Pecco Bagnaia in 2023, Marc Marquez, of course, here last year before he dumped it out of the lead in the Grand Prix. And Maverick Viñales, when he was then on board the factory at Aprilia, what a weekend that was in 2024 for Viñales. Pole position, sprint win and Grand Prix success. Unfortunately, Maverick not with us this afternoon to try and repeat that 2024 success, to replicate him. Tech 3 rider stepping away from the action yesterday. There's a screw that's worked loose, that damaged left shoulder he first injured at the Sachsenring in last July, 9 months ago. Viñales already making his way back to Europe. He'll be under the surgeon's knife to repair that damaged screw here or over in Italy on Tuesday, determined to be fit for his home Grand Prix in Jerez in about a month's time. So then the 21 remaining riders that are ready to duel it out here in COTA come to the grid. They're coming under starters' orders. Your front row, Fabio Di Gianantonio, Marco Bezzecchi and Pedro Acosta. Ducati, Aprilia, KTM is your front row. Can Pedro Acosta try and wrestle back the lead in the World Championship? We need to win this sprint and hope that Faz has a bit of a collapse if he is to get the better of the Italian. A rather nervy, a rather anxious looking VR46 boss Ucho Salucci looks on. Last weekend, from pole position, Di Gianantonio was able to take second in the sprint, third in the Grand Prix after a couple of classic battles with Marc Marquez. More of the same please from those two in this 10 laps coming your way here in Austin, Texas. Green flag then has cleared at the back. We're about to get the green lights coming on very, very shortly. We are lights out and racing in the sprint here in Texas. A brilliant start from that pole position by Fabio Di Gianantonio, trying to nick the inside line though. Go both Acosta and Bezzecchi. Ultra aggressive on the inside as they climb the hill. He's reigning world champion Marc Marquez. Acosta properly cleans out of Di Gianantonio there. Di Gianantonio pushed out wide. He was leading. He's now in 4th place after Acosta's aggression, taking full advantage. Bagnaia, who now leads.
Yeah, the factory Ducatis almost went a minute pincer movement on the rest of the field to take 1 and 2. As it's 1 and 3. Marc Marquez was trying to do what Bagnaia did last year and pile at the inside, but he was boxed in by Acosta.
Yeah, Acosta got no favours there. Back on the front foot, back on the front foot and leaning on Marquez, just as they did, 6 days ago in the Brazilian Grand Prix. This is brilliant counter-attacking by Fabio Di Gianantonio. He is once again going toe-to-toe with Marc Marquez. How many riders have put runs at Marc Marquez through that corner here in Austin down the years? Not many. Full power Digia.
So the World Championship leader, Marco Bezzecchi, is back in 7th place. He's behind his teammate, Jorge Martini, who, remind you, is the one rider in the field in the medium rear tyre.
4 first sector on that lap 1 for Fermin Aldeguer. He started the sprint in 10th. He was coming through the first sector down in 16th place, so he's lost 6 places very on. And here comes Marc Marquez on the inside of Digia. He's gone down, and Marc Marquez, well, these two had close combats last weekend in Brazil. This time it's too close for comfort. Marc Marquez trail braking on the inside line, too tight on the inside, just asking too much of that medium front tyre, and on the outside, well, the Gian Antonio has had some wretched luck on this first lap. He got pushed out wide at turn 1 by Pedro Acosta, lost the lead, dropped bound out of 4th, and in this early battle with Marc Marquez, he's the innocent victim, caught on the outside, nowhere to go. The Gian Antonio has remounted, but that is shocking look for the pole starter.
He'll be out with that one. Marc Marquez was trying to fight back on Gian Antonio, but that was coming from a while away. He saw how hard he was pushing to try and get that Ducati stopped, and I'm afraid Marc Marquez can look nowhere but himself with that one. Will that have ramifications for tomorrow's United States Grand Prix? Is he going to also, like Bezzecchi, have a penalty?
That's a bit of an own goal, isn't it, from Marc? He was just too impatient, trying to get on with the job too quickly. All the drama at the front left his teammate Pecco Bagnaia. Now here we go then. Marc coming from a long way back. He's just darting to that inside line, picks up Fabio Di Gianantonio, and then as he trail breaks in, locking the front, down he goes, losing the grip, and on the outside with nowhere to go. Talk about wrong place, wrong time. Twice on that first lap, that was the case as far as Di Gianantonio is concerned. Look at that VR46 race, and they cannot believe it.
It was already a big move. I think it was fair enough. Oh, nearly contact there as Martin nearly ran over the back of Joan Mir, is now in 3rd place. Gian Antonio had already jumped out of Marc Marquez's way and was letting him through. And then, of course, Marc Marquez had the moment, dropped the front and scooped up the luckless Gian Antonio. That now means the Aprilias are 4th and 5th. Martin and Bezzecchi, the big starter, was Toprak. He was up into 10th at the end of the first lap, but he's dropped a couple of places now behind the Trackhouse Aprilians.
That's a tough one to take for VR46 Racing, and one for Fabio Di Gianantonio as well. He was coming into the sprint as the top Ducati in the World Championship. This is right where all the early drama happened then on the very first lap at turn 12. Now it's sort of stabilised at the front. Is that Ayagura or is it Raul Fernandez that's running really wide going through turn 12? It's so hard to stop there. You're decelerating from top gear, 350 odd kilometres an hour, down to a dead stop first gear hair to the left-hander, 65 kilometres an hour. So Bagnaia then it is that leads. Pedro Acosta is second thanks to his early aggression on Digia up the hill into that first corner, which put Di Gianantonio into that place. I mean, he was well clear of Marc Marquez going up the hill into turn 1. It was Acosta's aggression which put him into that battle with 93.
So away from all the mayhem, it's all coming up smelling of roses for Pecco Bagnaia, who of course got the better of the Bezzecchi Acosta battle into turn 1 with Digia also in the middle of that too. And he leads the sprint from Pedro Acosta. Fastest lap of the sprint though, to the sprint master, Jorge Martin, who's trying to attack Joan Mir for 3rd place.
Yeah, Mir's too late on the brakes, closing up himself and now on this long run up into that sharp climb into the first corner. Elevation of over 40 metres from the grid position to the top of that turn 1. And just starting to check out here at the front of this sprint is Pecco Bagnaia, 2023 COTA sprint winner, 2025 COTA Grand Prix winner. Of course, is Bagnaia. He's clear now by half a second. He was through the first sector. Let's go and get some thoughts on down in pit lane. I'm sure that a crestfallen, a devastated VR46 Racing team boss, Pablo Nieto, who's with Jack.
Yeah, thanks for talking to us, Pablo. Just horrid look for Fabio. What did you make of that incident?
Yeah, and then when you are missing one race like this, because this kind of overtakes, we are not so agree of this movement, but okay, we will see what happens with the race direction, because I think it's important to say that this kind of movement, you cannot make it.
So you think that deserves a penalty for tomorrow?
Hopefully.
Thanks, Pablo.
Thank you.
The message, thanks Jack, thanks to Pablo Nieto, the message loud and clear. They feel that move right here on lap 1 at turn 12 on Fabio Di Gianantonio is justifying of a sanction tomorrow. I think many of you watching at home are probably not going to disagree with Pablo's assessment on that one. Simon Crayford has already had a very busy day here in COTA. We'll have another appointment with Marc post-sprint, won't he? At the front, at least one factory Ducati is shining at the moment in this sprint, because Pecco Bagnaia is starting to stretch his legs here on that GP26 very quickly. He's going to be a full second clear of Pedro Acosta. He's got a bit of a freight train building behind him on the factory KTM. Mir, Martin, Bezzecchi and Alex Marquez all within striking distance.
Martin going nicely on that medium rear tyre, which he's running to try and give himself some information for tomorrow. It might give him a sprint medal today yet. if Martin plays his cards right. Bagnaya's lead up now over 1 second. The 2:01.3 for Bagnaia. He's comfortably clear now of Acosta, and you can see some impatience growing in the group behind him.
Martin, brilliant. That is the textbook move. What a play that is on the inside of Mir. Up the hill into the first corner, had the inside line. He got the drivers, they climbed up the hill. Nothing Mir could do about that. Martin then now up into P3 on course for back-to-back sprint podiums on the Aprilia. And of course, this is great news for his early champion aspirations, as well with his teammate Marco Bezzecchi a couple of places back down the road.
Yeah, I'm sure the Aprilia riders aren't thinking championship at the moment, but with a long season, with another example here, Marc Marquez scoring nothing, the Aprilia riders surely have to try and punish Marc Marquez for this. Diogo Moreira is an early retirement, pointing to his right ear there for some reason. Maybe he heard something with the bike, but Moreira is out of this sprint. Marc Marquez and Fabio Di Giannantonio are still running, but they're way down the back.
At the moment, Acosta is a bit of a rolling roadblock, isn't he? With Bagnaia completely checked out at the front of this sprint. His advantage is just going up sector by sector. 1.3 seconds is now his lead. And now Martin is going to strike. There is nothing at all that's wrong with that Aprilia top end. On an RSGP, once he starts going through that gearbox, Martin just gobbles up Acosta on that run down into turn 12. That move has been coming. So now in successive laps, or on this very same lap, Martin has picked up Mir. He's now picked up Acosta. What can he do now about hunting down Pecco Bagnaia? This is classic vintage Jorge Martin. Spectacular to watch.
Of course, he and Marc Marquez are level in terms of all-time sprint wins. It's Bagnaia from Martin. Feels very 2022, 23 and 24, doesn't it? At the front of the field, there's your confirmation of the different tyre options. Martin, the only rider in the field, probably medium rear tyre. I did also, as we now see Bezzecchi having a look at the inside of Joan Mir to take 4th place. I'm pretty sure I saw some of Di Giannantonio's Ducati Aero on the back string, which might need fetching.
Mir's getting properly duffed up by those factory Aprilias, isn't he, of late? Martin got him up the hill at turn 1 at the end of start of that lap. Bezzecchi picks him up at the end of the lap. So Martin up to 2nd, Bezzecchi up to 4th. Mir's back to where he started this sprint in 5th place. Alex Marquez has not been able to get close to any of those riders ahead of him to sort of show them at the front wheel on that Gresini Ducati. 7th place for Luca Marini. Bastianini and Ralph Fernandez at the moment are completing your point scoring places. Augusti Fermin Aldeguer has picked off Shoham Zarco for 11th spot. What about this for a move? This was a sensational early attack from Fabio Di Giannantonio, going through 7 on Marc Marquez, and clearly the red mist came down.
Yeah, Marc Marquez, well, I guess there was nothing wrong with that move. I'm sure Marc would have respected the move, but clearly wanted the track position as soon as he could get it up the inside. So Digi's already given the position up by this point. He's picked the bike up and let Marc Marquez through, but of course he's trying to keep the bike on the road. There's just not enough space. He loses the front, and Di Giannantonio with no time nor any space to react to it.
And of course, we've already heard from VR46 Ducati boss Pablo Nieto, who has made it pretty obvious what they think of that move. And here now, the Aprilia. Look at the Aprilia. I mean, KTM previously, well, they have got, the history books show they've got the fastest Grand Prix motorcycle ever. 366 kilometres down the start-finish straight in Mugello. But that Aprilia has got some serious poke, hasn't it? When it gets wound up through 4th, 5th and 6th gear, there's nothing that Acosta can do. He is completely defenceless. And now Bezzecchi puts himself up on the podium. We're on course for yet another double factory Aprilia top 3.
And going to stretch further clear at the top of the World Championship too, aren't they? As a result, Flaxicota Costa is the rider behind him in 3rd. Di Giannantonio and Marc Marquez are 4th and 5th in the championship. They're currently scoring nothing. Neither is Ayagoras, of course, is 6th in the points.
The 3-event press conference here on Thursday and last Sunday when they had an epic battle for the last place in the Grand Prix podium in Brazil. Fabio Di Giannantonio was waxing lyrical about how much he enjoyed the fight, how much he enjoyed that real close battle with Marc Marquez. I think he might have changed his tune in the live music capital of the world here this weekend after being cleaned out by Marc on that very first lap at turn 12. Bagnaia at the moment, they're still in a sprint of his own. Still doing those sort of high 201s. 1.2 seconds is the gap back to Martin. What can Bezzecchi do now in a bit of clear road ahead of him in terms of hunting down his teammate and, of course, one of his VR46 Academy stablemates?
This is a race against the pitboard now for Pecco Bagnaia just to manage the lead. Of course, in his heyday when he was winning World Championships in MotoGP, this was something he was so good at. Getting a second or so lead at the start and just managing it. Toprak out of this sprint, unfortunately, after a great start. Remember, he was 10th at the end of the first lap. Has he crashed or has he retired? This is him side by side with his teammate Jack Miller, and Toprak Is he just going to park up? With the Fiat, there's no crash there, so Toprak straight away looking behind, trying not to get in the way of Brad Binder. So he has had some sort of technical problem on that Yamaha M1.
It's a shame. Just wants to be out there gaining experience, gaining knowledge on that V4 M1. Look at this, this is just free time, isn't it, for the factory Aprilius. Pedro Acosta will be demoralised under that helmet on top of the factory KTM. It's their top speed advantage, which has been a real key weapon of theirs, sort of 24, 25, last couple of years, but it has completely evaporated. That Aprilia has no obvious weakness, does it, in 2026? Just seems to do everything very, very well indeed. Now they've got a bit of engine performance to add to agility and handling. It's a real strong all-round package, isn't it? As Bezzecchi now starts to close in on Martin. Martin really not making any sort of significant progress towards Bagnaia. In fact, Bagnaia has just eked out his lead now. It's now the biggest it's been in this sprint, 1.5 seconds. If Bezzecchi's going to have any desires on winning the sprint and chasing down Bagnaia, he's going to have to find a way, a pretty sharpish through on Martin.
Martin's best hope is that the riders around him on the soft rear tyre begin to struggle later on, but at the moment there's no sign of that happening. We've only just gone past half sprint distance. Bagnaia's lead will be nudging a second and 3/4 here. In fact, it's come down in the final sector to 1.4 seconds. Good final sector for Martin, but Bagnaia, as mentioned, just doing exactly what he needs to do, exactly what he always did when he was winning championships, just keeping the field at arm's length.
At the moment, Bezzecchi is a lot faster than Martin directly ahead of him. A 201.9 from Martin, a 201.5 from Bez. I suppose one thing that could play into the hands of Jorge Martin in the sprint is actually tomorrow and what is still to come here in Austin, because he's going to get a lot of information, a lot of data on that medium rear tyre, which has clearly done an excellent job of keeping himself in that second place. Acosta's had nothing for the factory Aprilias once they blitzed past him on the back straight.
We just caught the tail end of the battle, one between two Italians, Bastianini for KTM and Marini for Honda. Bastianini has now taken that 7th place, so Marini now 8th, and the final sprint point held by Ralph Fernandez is actually going quicker than the leader right now.
And here comes Bezzecchi on the inside of Martin, down the hill into turn 11. Classic block pass there. Martin just trying to maybe try on the cutback to get back on through. But this has been coming. Bezzecchi, as mentioned, he was quite a lot faster over the last 2 or 3 laps than Jorge Martin. Martin, though, trying to fight fire with fire. Not going to be close enough, though, to retaliate on the brakes into turn 12. Just for reference, we saw Fabio Di Gianantonio pit on his damaged BR46 Ducati. Marc Marquez is actually back on 2 wheels. Marc is still circulating in this sprint, but he's 1 lap down. His pace is low 202, so on a damaged factory Ducati, Marquez still doing respectable pace. On the road, he's 18th.
Well, I mean, guess he was out there for a couple of reasons. In case it's a red flag, but also to gather whatever information he could ahead of the sprint tomorrow. He's on, of course, the soft rear tyre, which everyone, bar Martin, is in this race. So Bezzecchi now with clear tarmac ahead of him will now get the answer as just to how much extra pace he had and whether he can close the gap down to Pecco Bagnaia, but he's only got 3 and a bit laps to try and close this down.
Despite his shocking misfortune this afternoon, as you can see on that graphic, Fabio Di Gianantonio will still be at the end of this sprint the top Ducati rider in the MotoGP World Championship. The gap between Bagnaia and Bezzecchi just under 1.4 seconds. 3 to go here in this dramatic 10-lap sprint in Austin. I mean, you would think that Pecco Bagnaia would have this one covered. As Lewis mentioned, he was previously a master at managing sprints and Grand Prix at the front. Not able to relax in that second place. What will be his first sprint medal of the season is World Champion Bezzecchi, who's been put under some pretty big pressure by Jorge Martin, who wants the bragging rights in that Noir Ligares, doesn't he?
Yeah, well, he got the bragging rights in the sprint last weekend when he passed Bezzecchi late on, but of course then had to watch his teammate win the Grand Prix on the Sunday. This could potentially be a battle for the World Championship as we go through this season. If Aprilia maintain the advantage they've had in the first 2 Grand Prix, and Martin not prepared to let this one go just yet.
It is. All fun little terrier, all rear air skipping in the air there from... Oh, he's gone down! I was just about to say, on the brakes, Marco Bezzecchi. We saw the rear tyre lift in the air as he was braking so hard down into turn 11. Oh, this just shows what pressure can do to you. With Martin right on his rear tyre, did he just get a sense that maybe he was going to close in on Pecco Bagnaia? It was out of shape. We saw brilliantly the onboard from Jorge Martin. Called it when we saw the rear tyre in the air, overloading the front, and Marco Bezzecchi head in his hands. He has made another massive mistake. He crashed out of the lead in the sprint, didn't he, in our opener in Burham, and now a whole bunch more Saturday points go begging as Bez crashes out a second.
And he's let Marc Marquez off the hook here in this sprint. Marc scored nothing. Neither is Marco Bezzecchi, so Martin's now going to score 9 points for second place, which will take him to within 2 of his teammate at the top of the World Championship. And Pedro Acosta now back onto the sprint podium in 3rd place. And any pressure that was going to build on Pecco Bagnaia in the last 3 laps of this sprint is now well and truly off his shoulders.
That's now pushed Ayagura up into the point scoring place. The Japanese rider then now in 9th spot. I think it was a pair of 9th place. Yeah, he was 9th in the Grand Prix in the sprint here last year with Ayagura, so this is very familiar territory for him here in Austin. And well, we have had our pole sitter, Fabio Di Gianantonio, wiped out by our reigning world champion, Marc Marquez, on lap 1. We've had our world championship leader, Marco Bezzecchi, crash out of a medal position for the 2nd time in our first 3 sprints. 2026. What else can you say? I mean, our first 2.5 Grand Prix of the season so far. Oh, Alex Rins now has crashed out. Alex tries to sprint away from the senior. He's down at the first corner. Alex was in 15th place, which of course was good enough for a point in tomorrow's Grand Prix. That went so early as he climbed up the hill. Maybe the forks bottoming out there at the top of the hill, but wow, this sprint coming alive maybe for the final place of the podium. Because look at this, Joan Mir has started to sense a bronze medal at stake here behind Acosta.
Acosta did a 2:02.6 on the last lap. He's hemorrhaging lap time in these latter stages. He needs this last lap and a half to go by as quickly as possible. You can see the tense faces, the CEO of KTM watching down in pit lane. What defence has Acosta got in the final lap and a half?
He's decided to contest at the front. Mahoy Martin has just got the gap down between himself and Bagnaia to back under a second. It just looked like as Bastianini buys the KTM on the inside of Alex Marquez, going to run in hard, running wide. And Alex says, thank you very much. I'll take that position straight back. I'm closely watching in these split sector times here between Bagnaia and Jorge Martin. Just looked like down the hill on the braking over turn 11 that Martin was visibly closer on the brakes to Bagnaia. Bagnaia just easing off ever so slightly here, just managing that gap of around a second. It's down there to 8/10. Is it game on here in Kota?
Bagnaia can't afford to take too many liberties on this final lap as Alex Marquez slammed the door shot in Bastianini's face there as they approached 15. This is for 5th place. Look at this. Visibly, you can see the gap closing down. Martin up by Bagnaia. Remember, this is where the medium rear tyre might well come into play for Martin.
How's he playing an absolute tactical masterstroke? Do you know what he might well have done? Bagnaia's 9th lap of this 10-lap sprint of 2:02.445. Jorge Martin's at 2:01.678. Almost a second was the chasm in performance between the two of them. Has that Mir gone down? I think Joan Mir might have crashed out of the first corner. Yeah, he has. Joan Mir then. Another DNF into the column for poor old Joan Mir. What we just said, was this over as a contest? Joan Mir confirmation on the screen, he has gone down. Do you know what? Jorge Martin's going to win this. He is all over Pecco Bagnaia. Pecco Bagnaia is running out of grip on that soft rear tyre. It has been a tactical masterstroke this, surely by Jorge Martin. Wow, what a performance by the factory. You can see the wheel spin that Bagnaia's getting.
If Jorge Martin takes this, he'll take the lead in the MotoGP World Championship after the Kota sprint. Pecco Bagnaia needs the widest Ducati GP26 he's ever ridden to hold this on the final half a lap.
He has not won a sprint since the Sepang Grand Prix in Malaysia at the end of 2024 when he was knocking on the door and winning the World Championship this year. Just look at the top speed that the Aprilia has. Side by side, he'll go on the braking with Bagnaia. Bagnaia tries to top it out of the brakes. Jorge Martin, though, sensing. Oh, there's contact there. They both stay upright, unlike Marc Marquez and Di Gianantonio on the first lap.
But
Jorge Martin, late drama here in Kota. He is about to lead the MotoGP World Championship. All of the pain, all the nightmare, all the horror of 2025 is going to be forgotten in an instant if Jorge Martin gets this job done. He now comes through turn 16, 17 and 18. The long right-handers, the long journey is about to end. Back to the top step of the podium here for Jorge Martin. He's going to take a gold medal in this sprint here in Austin. What a pick. What a decision to run that medium rear tyre. It is going to pay off handsomely as for the first time in 18 months, Jorge Martin is back on top in the MotoGP World Championship. He can't quite believe it, can he? As Jorge Martin wins an epic sprint here in Austin, Texas. Pecco Bagnaia faded massively late on. Bagnaia was doing mid-203s on the last lap. He lost it by almost 8/10 of a second, having been almost 2 seconds clear at one stage. Jorge Martin is in absolute dreamland right now. There was tears when he was on the sprint podium in Goiânia last weekend. He thought that was good. This is just getting better and better and better for Jorge Martin, who is back on top of the world.
The record 17th sprint win of Jorge Martin's career, but this will mean more than the previous 16 put together. There was so much to cover later on. Joan Mir crashing out of what would have been a podium at the start of the final lap of the sprint. That was him just behind Pedro Acosta, so it would have been a battle for third and fourth. He scores nothing, so Martin wins from Bagnaia. Acosta third, although his tyre pressure we're now hearing is under investigation, so he hasn't got that bronze medal yet. Bastianini fourth all of a sudden, ahead of Marquez, Alex Marquez, Marini Igura, Ralph Fernandez and Johan Zarco taking the final point. A sprint you could write a book about.
I am never going to get sick and tired of saying this, but how can you not love MotoGP? What a 10-lap sprint that was. Jorge Martin came from 1.5 seconds back at one stage. Super aggressive he was to pick up Bagnaia going into that turn 12 in the last lap. But what it means, his father there, Angel Martin on the left-hand side of the picture, who has been side by side, who has seen his son suffer the agony of career-threatening injuries throughout last year. I mean, it wasn't that long ago where Jorge Martin was saying that he couldn't get out of bed, he could barely feed himself. Bang goes the screen. They'll take that out of his win bonus, I'm sure, but he won.
The Martin trademark, isn't it?
It is. It's the Martin trademark. His first sprint win, as we said, since Malaysia 2024. That was just awesome. Do you know what? It's always a great story. Marc Marquez did it last year, having had those 5 barren years since around 2020. A great human story completed by Marc when he won the World Championship in Japan last year. Another fantastic human story. Elite, there's just something extra special about elite sport and comebacks, isn't there? Jorge Martin.
Oh, he's dropped it.
He's crashed. Jorge Martin, has he crashed on a wheelie?
Yeah.
He's done a celebration. Has it a wheelie? Well, have you ever seen anything quite like this? Ladies and gentlemen, Jorge Martin, after all of his injury nightmares, finds himself back on the top of the MotoGP World Championship, and he's crashed on a celebration wheelie. I mean, this is scary. Locks the front. As the front wheel hits the surface, we thought he was doing a celebration wheelie. Just when you think you've seen it all in the MotoGP World Championship, something comes along to take your breath away. That's a first. That's a first for me. I have never seen that. 30 years in the paddock.
Thank goodness Jorge's all right.
Yeah,
I mean, just taken a sprint win, the pure euphoria, even for Jorge Martin, the euphoria of the celebration even got a bit too much for him. And he sent his Aprilia halfway up the back straight with the rider on his knees. But fortunately for Jorge Martin, he can get to his feet and live to tell the tale. The sprint winner unhurt.
If you are, Jorge Martin has been picked up by the official medical car. Don't worry, folks. I think this is just a precaution. Jorge's pride is hurt more than anything else. Marc Marquez, well, plenty for the reigning world champion to contemplate. Surely, is there going to be a sanction coming his way for the early big talking point? A sprint that was overloaded with talking points. This was the first, well, maybe the second one after Acosta picked up, did you, on the first lap?
Yeah.
Poor old Fabio Di Gianantonio, just nothing he could do about that. Marc Marquez is going to have an appointment with Simon Crayford and the FIA MotoGP stewards later on this evening here in Austin.
Until he took the front, it was almost a carbon copy of the last lap, wasn't it, with Martin picking up Pecco Bagnaia, but of course Marc Marquez couldn't keep the front wheel from tucking and then scooped up Di Gianantonio ultimately. As well as ruining his own sprint, he ruined Fabio Di Gianantonio, so I'm not sure whether Marc Marquez has any defence when he has to see the stewards later.
Unbelievable. There's no other word for it. What have we just witnessed? What have we just seen here in this sprint in Austin? I mean, first and foremost, so relieved that Jorge Martin looks like he's relatively unscathed from what could have been a real nasty incident there. As soon as the front tyre hit the tarmac, it just locked up. It's similar to what Fabio Di Giannantonio did in Sepang, wasn't it, last year? Look, he's quickly on his feet. He'll be a little bit probably red-faced, a little bit embarrassed by that, but he is the World Championship leader. He is a sprint winner once again. He leads the World Championship by 1 point from Marco Bezzecchi, who crashed out of second place when he was chasing down Pecco Bagnaia. Pecco Bagnaia, after all of his early season misery, is on the podium here in the sprint. Marc Marquez takes the checker flag in 17th place. Jorge Martin has remounted on the last lap when he was third and crashed at turn 1 to finish 15th. I mean, come on.
And remember, Pedro Acosta is under investigation for tyre pressure, so he might hand that bronze medal to all people. And they at Bastianini yet. We'll see how that investigation goes later on. I think Martin is just, you can see the laughter in Bagnaia's face as Martin tells him what happened. Yeah, crashed on the way to Parc Ferme, and this is the result. They say what goes around comes around. Remember Australia a couple of years ago when Jorge Martin made the decision to go for the soft rear tyre and lost a sprint win on the last lap. It suddenly turned back around for him today.
Ultimi 4 giri. Ho visto vibrazioni, no? All'ultima il burrone vibrava di lento lì a buttarla dentro. Poi tante cadute, a stop, boom, spinghe. Il primo giro subito alla 12, arrivato, frenato, l'ultimo è frenato forte, poi ho molato, dico così, non lo prendo.
Absolute chaos in Kota, absolute carnage in Kota, but nothing's going to wipe the smiles off the face of Jorge Martin's Aprilia crew. They might have a bit of a repair job coming up shortly. We could hear there Pecco Bagnaia just saying that's just getting too much wheel spin, maybe a little bit of vibration later on with that soft rear tyre. That was a hard move. It was an aggressive move. But this is Jorge Martin looking for his first win since 2024. Pecco Bagnaia, he knows he just tried to run that tight defensive line, nothing he could do. A look over the shoulder, and that really went okay for Jorge Martin as it starts to sink in. Seconds after he crosses the line, he punches the air. He'll soon put a fist through the screen on that factory Aprilia. Just look what it means to a rider who's at times in 2025 wondered whether he'd ever race in MotoGP yet again, let alone win again in MotoGP. It has taken Jorge Martin 2.5 weekends in 2026 to win once again and find himself back at the top of the MotoGP World Championship. This is fairy tale stuff. You could not script a story quite like this.
And he told us coming into the weekend, I'm not sure how fit I am, I might struggle this weekend, my left hand is in an awful lot of pain, my right shoulder's aching. There's no better fix for the pain and the difficulty and the discomfort than a gold medal around your neck.
And whoever it was, I'm sure it was Jorge, in discussion with his crew chief Daniele Romagnoli, in discussion with his mixing technician, whoever it was that made the final call. Usually it's left to the rider, usually it is left to the rider. That was a genius move. Massimo Rivola comes to congratulate Jorge Martin. Already, so far in 2026, we have had 3 different leaders in the MotoGP World Championship. What did we have in the whole of last year? 2?
Was it 2? Yeah,
Alex and Mark. That just tells you the story, the incredible story, the unfolding story of this year's MotoGP World Championship. Let's get the thoughts of Pedro Acosta. As it stands right now, 3rd place is with Jack.
Well, Pedro, huge congratulations onto the sprint podium here in Austin. We could see what you were dealing with the way the Aprilias came blasting past you. So what does it mean to have battled against that and still be on the podium? You are under investigation for the tyre pressure as well. Was there anything coming up on the dash?
Well, it's what it is at the end. I know from the qualifying that it was going to be tough to beat the Aprilias and Ducatis. But I think we make a good job. The team is working quite well for this. We have to be happy anyway.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations, asterisk for the time being for Pedro Acosta, because there's a tyre pressure investigation undergoing for the factory KTM rider. Yeah, nothing he can really do about the Ducatis and the Aprilias ahead of him. But what a story. What a sprint that was. I mean, we thought the sprints in Thailand and Goianyu were good. I mean, they were very, very good. They were exceptional, but this has just raised the bar. This has taken us to the next level in MotoGP. Let's get the thoughts of the runner-up. He did so much of the running at the front. Pecco Bagnaia with Jack.
Well, Pedro, what a sprint that was. So much to try and pick apart. It's the first podium of the year, but what was it like feeling Jorge closing in on those final laps, and could you do anything about it in the end?
Fucking bastard, Dortmund. I was trying to this move after first lap that I pushed quite hard, and I just started to trying to ride to the last part with a bit of tire, but I started to struggle a bit with the soft rear. But in any case, super happy for the hard work we are doing, and we were deserving a lot this kind of race, this kind of result. So thanks to the team that is always working super hard, and we try to make another step tomorrow.
Great ride, Pecco. Congratulations again on that.
Well, we won't repeat what he thought about our new world championship leader, Jorge Martin, but we do just apologise to all of you watching at home for some of his choice language as he came close to his first victory in the 2026 World Championship. That takes a nice sprint tally, podium tally to 31. But Jorge Martin's had a lot of sprint success in his career, but nothing will come quite as close as he goes cloud surfing now with his factory Aprilia crew. I mean, this is a guy who's just won his first sprint in 18 months. He's just crashed with a wheelie down the longest dark straight of the season. And I'm looking forward to this. Cannot wait to hear the thoughts of our sprint winner and our World Championship leader in 2026. It's Jorge Martin with Jack.
Jorge Martin, once again, you are a sprint winner, and with it, the new MotoGP World Championship leader. After everything you've been through over the last 12 months, how does it feel to be back on top of the world again for the first time since Valencia 2024?
Yeah, rodeo time, baby. Yeah, so happy. Thanks to all the people. First time winning here in MotoGP, so it's fantastic. And it's been a while, 2 years without the racing here, and I really missed it. And yeah, I took a maybe risky decision going with the medium, but I knew inside of myself that it was the right choice, and it paid off. I had to wait till the last lap. I never won in MotoGP a race like this one, or either a sprint, but again, back to winning a sprint means a lot to me. So thanks to Aprilia, they are an amazing team. They are helping me a lot to find my level, and we are getting there. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Well, he said it there, with big risks, that medium rear tyre choice, with big risks can come big rewards, and boy, he's got the biggest of them all. Jorge Martin will go into tomorrow's 20-lap Red Bull Grand Prix of the United States as the MotoGP World Championship leader. This was a rider who wasn't even fit enough to take part in the first test of the winter in early February at the Spanish National Circuit in Malaysia. Can you imagine what Jorge would have said to you if you'd have walked up to him in the Buran paddock at the test there, the two-day test, the week before the Grand Prix, saying, "Oh, time we get to Sunday in Austin, Jorge, you're going to be leading the World Championship." But dreams do come true. Never write off former world champions. Jorge Martin back on top of the world in a sprint which for 20 minutes and 19.5 seconds had us on the edge of our seats, and then thereafter as well on the cool-down lap where he crashed a celebration wheelie. That sprint just had everything. It had absolutely everything. I'm sure you loved it. I'm sure you enjoyed it just as much as we did here, and just as much as those fans did who were super lucky to see it live. What a bonus to see Jorge Martin back on the top step of the sprint. He's about to get a gold medal for a golden performance. Just MotoGP once again at its very, very best.
Let's get on with the sprint podium then. After an extraordinary 10 laps of action, so much happened. The world champion take out the pole sitter, the pre-sprint championship leader crashing out, the sprint winner crashing after the checkered flag. Joan Mir crashing out of what would have been 4th place at the start of the final lap 2. And we go over double the distance tomorrow in the Grand Prix of the United States. Let's keep your eye on MotoGP social media channels for 2 reasons: to see if there is any sort of sanction for Pedro Acosta with his tyre pressure investigation, and also if there is any penalty coming the way of the world champion Marc Marquez for his collision with Fabio Di Giannantonio on lap 1. For now, though, it is a bronze medal for Pedro Acosta and a 13th sprint podium of his career, which, as it stands, puts him 8 points behind Jorge Martin at the top of the World Championship. At least KTM know that even if Acosta does get a penalty, it'll be another KTM rider that will inherit it. Bastianini, who finished 4th today. Pecco Bagnaia, it's silver today. In terms of the riders on the soft rear tyre, he was head and shoulders above the rest. Ultimately, without the grip or any sort of defence for Jorge Martin on the medium rear on the final lap. There's so many positives for Pecco to take out of today. But even if it wasn't the most dignified ending after the checkered flag for Jorge Martin, a golden afternoon. He moves back out on his own once again. His 17th sprint win, and Jorge Martin, unbelievably, is back on top of the MotoGP World Championship.
Well, we are in the world, or in the country that gave the world the Hollywood blockbuster. That was a Hollywood blockbuster sprint experience here, wasn't it, in Austin, Texas. With no screen left on Jorge Martin's damage to Aprilia. He really bashed that out before he then crashed on the celebration. That was the big risk. He said it was a big risk, but with it came big prizes. He's just sort of now, all the adrenaline's leaving his body, and now the emotion's going to take over as he realises the gravity of what he's just accomplished. He is back on top of a sprint podium. He is back on top of the MotoGP World Championship. And like he was for much of 2024, the onus now on the rest to play catch-up to Jorge Martin. It will take a narrow 1-point lead into tomorrow's 20-lap Red Bull Grand Prix of the United States. The third different leader of the MotoGP World Championship already so far this season. We haven't even completed 3 rounds. Marco Bezzecchi take back control. Pedro Acosta only 8 points back in 3rd place. But at the end of what was a cracker of a sprint here in Kota, there's no other way to describe it. It was an absolute belter, one which is going to live long in the memory for what happened at the start, what happened in the middle, what happened at the end, and what happened after the end of that sprint, because it just had absolutely everything. We now know that you're going to be joining us at 3 p.m. local time here in Austin, Texas tomorrow for double the distance and maybe double the drama. At the end of that 10 laps, this was before Marc Marquez and Fabio Di Gianantonio came together on lap 1 at turn 12. That left Pecco Bagnaia clear at the front, and he looked like he was careering to his first success of 2026. But nobody told Jorge Martin, nobody told Aprilia, with the benefit of the extra grip of that medium Michelin rear tyre, Jorge Martin pinching himself right now as once again he reclaims he won in the MotoGP World Championship. Massimo Rivola, who dug his heels in last year when there was the contract dispute with the Aprilia management and Jorge Martin, they were pretty adamant, they were clear. You are not going anywhere, as he tried to manoeuvre a move to Honda. I think now Jorge Martin and Aprilia are very relieved that they were able to iron out their differences, because right now Martin and the factory Aprilia RSGP, they are a match made in heaven.
And the emotion spills out once again for Jorge Martin and his better half after all of the journey, the incredible pain, both physical and emotional, he's been through. No one feels it more than the lady in his arms. Jorge Martin, a sprint winner again. passing Pecco Bagnaia on the final lap of a breathless 10 laps. Pedro Acosta third for the moment. Of course, that is subject to a tyre pressure investigation. And Air Bastianini in line to take advantage if there is a penalty. He was fourth after Joan Mir crashed on the final lap from fourth. Alex Marquez fifth ahead of Marini Agura, Raul Fernandez and Joan Zarco does take the final point. Aldeguer 10th ahead of Quartararo, Binder, Morbidelli, Miller, Mir, Rins and Marc Marquez, who was a lap behind but did finish in 17th place. Marco Bezzecchi, how he will regret his crash when he was in 10th place to lead the World Championship. As it is, it's Jorge Martin who takes it by 1 point, 57th place, 56. But we go into tomorrow's Grand Prix. Pedro Acosta, as it stands, is 8 points back. That, of course, could still change. Fabio Di Gianantonio fourth. Ayagura moves up ahead of Marc Marquez into fifth. Marc Marquez is now 23 points off the lead. Aprilia extend their lead in the Constructors' Championship. They're now 20 points clear of Ducati, who extend their advantage over KTM to 7 points. It really should have been a 1-3, shouldn't it, for Aprilia? In the end, it was just a victory for Jorge Martin as they extend their lead over Trackhouse to 46 points. Well, these are the highlights. We might as well just play the whole sprint again because it was a 10-lap highlight reel in the end. With Gianantonio from pole position, Pedro Acosta, who got the best launch as he seeks the inside line into turn one. Marquez with the door shut in his face. Acosta and Gianantonio side by side into turn one. Bezzecchi hung out to dry. And also all of that, it was Pecco Bagnaia who took the lead. This was the start of a battle that would last for half a lap, between Gianantonio and Marc Marquez. Marc trying to take the advantage back to third place, of course, into turn 12. So down on Fabio Gianantonio, and that will be investigated after the sprint. It's fair at Ducati, but at least Pecco Bagnaia had a comfortable lead at this stage as Jorge Martin began his rise up the order on the medium rear tyre, taking Joan Mir for third place. Costa had no defence to the top speed of the Aprilia as Martin seized second. Bezzecchi, who was now up to fifth, was also beginning to get himself into the podium action. Let's move on. Pedro Acosta, turn 12 wasn't successful, but turn 13 certainly was, as Bezzecchi sought to extend his World Championship lead, taking P3. Aprilia battle was soon on for second. 72, passing 89. Bezzecchi at this stage on for 9 points and a silver medal. Same corner, he took second place. He lost second. Unsettled, of course, as that rear tyre skipped in the air. And Bezzecchi then fell to lose 9 crucial World Championship points. Meant that this was a battle not only for the sprint win, but for Jorge Martin for the World Championship lead. Big move on Bagnaia, whose soft rear tyre had cried enough. Extraordinary action and dramatic emotion for Jorge Martin. His record 17th sprint win. He's out on his own again as the most prolific sprint winner in MotoGP history. And with that, he takes the World Championship lead. 10 extraordinary laps, 20 to come tomorrow. Do not miss the Grand Prix of the United States. See you on Sunday, folks.